Hello, everybody. For my third role play, I wanted to take the creative, kind of expressive art therapy and do an example of that. Um, I used an activity called the Castle of Emotion. This is something I do all the time, and I love this activity because in the 2 years I've been here, this has been one of the most successful and most telling activity, like in art form, that I've noticed that we do. You can gather so much information from what these kids do. Um, and it can be super helpful to know how to kind of guide the treatment. This is definitely an activity you could do individually, like I had done with my friend Cindy here, but you can also do it in a group. I've done it with a group up to 10. Um, if you're doing it in a group, I would just say, like, be very mindful of the time you spend on each person. Um, you might not be able to ask as many, like, questions as I'd asked Cindy. So kind of being able to kind of look at the castle and, like, pick out major theme points, like the fact that she had dad and her ex-best friend kind of isolated out here, like that's a big deal. Um, uh, as well as, like, where she's located in the castle and, like, what the defenses are in the castle. For her, it was the alligator and the moat and the drawbridge, and the archers up here. So kind of focusing on those is really important. But questions you can ask, like, if there is time remaining, like, where is your castle located? Is there a part of the castle that nobody's allowed into? Are there things, like, inside the castle? Like, I had somebody once that reflected and said that they had, like, knights lined up, and they had people, like, they had, like, one person that was lined up, and that one person would, like, put their, like, sword down to try to keep people from out. So it's super interesting to see kind of what people say, but I would definitely recommend being very mindful in a group of how much time you're spending. Individually, obviously, you have a lot more opportunity to kind of ask those questions and kind of pick things apart. Um, the other nice thing about this activity is, you can do it with, like, pretty young kids. I don't know really what the youngest you might want to do it with. I would say maybe like 6 or 7. But generally, everybody is familiar with, like, castles or the idea of a castle. At some point, they've probably been introduced to, like, fairy tales or seen a show or watched a movie or heard a story about castles. So, fairly common. Um, like I said, we do it here all the time, so I do it with teenagers, like, all the time. But I also think it could be beneficial for an adult. I mean, you definitely would have to feel it out, but if somebody's really struggling to, like, talk and get those kind of, say these kind of things, um, art is always so helpful. And I always tell the kids, like, I'm not here to judge your art. I draw stick figures, because sometimes people worry a lot about, like, what other people are saying about their drawing, or, like, what I think about their drawing. And I always give the disclaimer, like, I'm not Picasso, I am not Leonardo da Vinci, I can't draw at all. But it's more the idea. Um, like I said, I've seen a lot of success with this activity. We've even gotten, like, big poster boards and, like, long sheets of paper and asked them to, like, almost kind of make it, like, more life size. We've done that with, like, a smaller group. Um, but as far as processing goes, looking through each part of it, sometimes I like to make an assumption of, like, what something is. Other times I like to just say, like, what is that? I think the part about making an assumption is good, because if they are uncomfortable with what they're drawing and they think it's really bad, they're going to be like, well, how could you not tell that was an alligator? Or how did you not tell that was bow and arrow? I've had people do that for me. So if you notice in Cindy's, I could clearly tell, like, this was an alligator. But up here, on this side, I didn't know what that was. So I was a little bit more, like, kind of open to her explaining, like, oh, tell me about that. Like, what is that? Um, Also, the other nice thing, and Cindy and I did this on purpose. I did not see this before we did the role play. Um, I like to just see what people draw and just go for it. Like when the kids are working on it, I don't ever like walk around the room and kind of look at them ahead of time. I just like to go for it. It makes it, I think, a little bit more exciting, I guess, for me to kind of reflect on. But there are, like, I always have certain sets of questions, like, in the back of my mind, like, who do you keep out of the castle? Why are they out of the castle? Are there any ways people can get in the castle? Sometimes people draw, like, underground tunnels or, like, a labyrinth or some pretty cool things. And that's the nice thing about using a castle is, like, there's so many cool things people can do with it. People draw dragons before. I've had people do, like cannons almost. So it's really, really neat, and I just really enjoy this activity, and I hope that, this role play was beneficial for anybody who wants to watch it and do an activity like this with someone. As far as my presentation, I definitely talked more than I typically would. Cindy was like not very comfortable with doing the role play, so I was trying to like help her out a little bit, but I would have probably just like sat back and kind of just validated more than I talked. I also, again, I keep reflecting on this, but I would have been a little bit more mindful of my speed. I know I'm a speedy talker. I've always been a speedy talker. I think I have a very assertive, steady tone. I think it's just my pace. And I'm also in front of the camera. I try to be really mindful of my time. So I always think that I have more time than I do, and then I end up running out of time. So, but something I want to continue to work on and hopefully continue in my next role play. Thank you.